I was actually timing my heartbeat. I'm thinking, something's about to go wrong here. If my heartbeat hits about 150, something's wrong. These aren't laced with amphetamines, are they?
No. Hey, what's going on, everybody? For First We Feast, I'm Sean Evans, and you're watching Hot Ones. It's the show with hot questions and even hotter wings. And today we close out Season 9 with Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's a 6-time WWF World Heavyweight Champion and WWE Hall of Famer. You can catch him on the award-winning podcast, The Steve Austin Show, and he also has a new TV show. It's called Straight Up Steve Austin. Catch it Mondays, 11:10 Central after Monday Night Raw on the USA Network. Stone Cold, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, man. It's going to be a hell of an extravaganza. I don't know what I've just gotten myself into, but I'm ready to go with you.
Well, I know that you're an Edna, Texas boy. How do you handle your spice?
Man, in my environment back in the day, I was the toughest SOB in the history of the WWE. Here in front of you, I might be the biggest sissy you've ever had on the show. That remains to be seen, and that's what we're about to find out. Oh, it's already on there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, see, that's good.
So, as a show that forces scorching hot chicken wings on our guests, we're super interested in this movement towards experiential celebrity interviews. Do you think all those years clicking with wrestlers in the ring, do you think that gives you an advantage when it comes to building chemistry with a TV show or podcast guest?
You know, being Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the day, a lot of people think, man, this guy's a little bit wound up. He's a little bit over the edge. He's crazy. You know, he's always mad. He drinks a lot. I drink a little bit. But I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy talking to people, and I'm curious by nature. The more you do something, the better you get at it. So I'm hoping this season catches on, so I can apply what I've learned this season into another season and keep going from there. But I don't think being a WWE superstar necessarily, you know, made me a natural at it. I like the gradual kind of build up your we've got several to go here. I like what you're doing here.
Off to a good start.
I know that there's a method to your madness, and I've enjoyed watching the shows that I've watched.
Oh, thank you. You've seen it. So you do kind of know what you're getting yourself into here.
Absolutely.
So, being a global icon and a national treasure, the mythology around Stone Cold Steve Austin, it's so vast. So I think that it's only right early on in the interview that we clear the air on some of the lore surrounding the Texas rattlesnake. Fact or fiction, before you decided on Stone Cold, the WWF gave you a list of possible nicknames that included Fang McFrost, Chili McFreeze, and Otto Von Ruthless.
True. This is way back in the day. I was living on 10 acres in a log cabin outside Georgia, and I was watching a special on HBO about Richard Kuklinski, who was a serial killer. He was a hitman, and I'm not endorsing anything he did, but he was just ruthless individual. So I said, okay, there's some traits there that would make a good villain in the squared circle. So I pitched the idea to the office, and the Iceman had already been done at a local level down in Dallas by Iceman King Parsons. So we didn't want to go down that road. And so based on, you know, my concept that I gave them, they pitched me temperature-based names. It wasn't about being temperature-based, it's cold-blooded, you know, like mean, remorseless, ruthless. And so I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is a creative genius. It's WWE. I mean, they're supposed to make anybody and everybody and turn them into a superstar. So the names were absolutely ridiculous. And I could not believe that that was the best that they came up with.
Is there any truth to the rumor that 100+ beers were consumed during that beer bash in Japan with Stacy Keibler and the Dudleys?
That is true. Now, actually, all the way consumed, 12-ounce portions, I don't know, but spilled, I had it about 128. I think it's still a record. But you come out of a session like that, and like people say, hey man, you wasted most of that damn beer. That's the showbiz part of it. If I was just to sip it all and just drink it all, it'd be a horrible visual. So you got to get some on you. But I'll tell you, there's been, I don't know how many times I would come out of that ring and you'll leave with a buzz.
Yeah,
because you go in there with
sure.
an empty belly and then guzzle all that beer, you're going to get a buzz.
Fact or fiction, you and Booker T caused $10,000 worth of damage to a grocery store brawling.
That is indeed what I heard the total damage was. I believe that was called the Green Frog. I think it was in Fresno, California, if I'm not mistaken. I think the store closed down after, not because of that, but after that. And we had an absolute blast. Booker and I have always had a chemistry going back from our days in Atlanta when we both worked for WCW. He's one of the funniest guys I know, and I just had him on my podcast, as a matter of fact. But yeah, $10,000 worth of damage was the sum total.
Fact or fiction, you let the caboose loose while wrestling Yokozuna in South Africa.
Had to. Yeah, a lot of times when you do international travel and there's a dietary change,
the
things
chemistry.
happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Yoke, he was weighing 600 pounds at the time, and when he picked me up and slammed me, things happened. Something went south, and luckily I was wearing black trunks. And Yoko was so cool. He's no longer with us. God rest his soul. But I was laying there on the mat. I just crapped my trunks. And I looked at him, I said, Yoke, let's go home. Go home is wrestle speak for let's do the finish and get out of here. And he so cool, he goes, okay, brah. And we did the finish. I got beat and I walked to the back and took a hell of a shower. Shaquandas. I don't want to be level 3 to be the one that makes me have a Yokozuna moment here on your show. This is a season finale, but what a finish it would be. We got Stone Cold out here and he shit himself. What's our language parameters?
You can go Stone Cold Unleashed here.
Okay, I don't want to go crazy. This is starting to get a little out there. I barely put a tongue on that one.
And I know that you were a driver's ed teacher as a senior at North Texas. Do you have a biggest driving pet peeve?
People don't use the blinkers. Number
Right.
1, use your effing blinkers, please. And it's like, if someone's driving a car in real bad shape, you think, okay, well, shit, the blinker's just broke or the light doesn't work. But then if it's someone in a real nice car, like a Mercedes or BMW, you think, oh, he's just an asshole. He thinks he's entitled and he doesn't have to use his blinkers. But that's my number 1 pet peeve. Use your effing blinkers, please.
And then, do you still have a problem with rats on the ranch? I know for a while there, they were chewing up your Chevy trucks and Polaris Rangers.
They were a severe problem. We never defeated them. I sold the ranch about 3 years ago, and we're now based out of Nevada. Of course, I'm now fortunate enough to be driving Kawasaki mules, and they don't touch my mules because there's not as many up there for some reason, and we have a bunch of cats. Anybody in South Texas or in the remote areas, are dealing with rats, and they are a real problem. You go out there to fire up your car, sometimes it won't fire, your lights don't fire, so you always keep the hood up. You put steel wool in your tailpipes. You do the things you can do. Best thing is, buy cats.
Pro tips from Stone Cold Steve Austin. Are you ready to move on to number 4?
Yeah, you're reading me, Emma.
In your eyes, I can see it.
Look at him, boy. You're giving a stare down while he's taking a bite out of his wings. This ain't his first rodeo. Is this gonna be the one that gets me?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
So I know that you're a true student of professional wrestling, and you're always very generous with your praise for those who've come before you and after. Pound for pound, who was the most physically impressive athlete during your wrestling days?
Dynamite Kid back in his day was very cutting edge. Just a snap suplexes, diving off the top ropes. He was really innovative. The way he did things, the way he executed things in the ring, he would be someone that I would put on a list that I highly respected.
Besides yourself, who had the best mic skills during the Attitude Era?
You can not overlook The Rock. When he first arrived on the scene, he was this good-looking, third generation babyface, and people just didn't take to him. And they would say, "Die, Rocky, die, die, Rocky, die," and they put him in the Nation of Domination. And he ascended to the top of that organization, and he started wearing the silk shirts, and he started referring to himself in third person and working that eyebrow. And he electrified and captivated crowds with his catchphrases, his cadence, and his delivery, and his message, and calling everybody jabroni, knowing your role. So, yes, I was an outstanding promo in my own right and had my own style, but Rock commanded the audience's respect, attention, and elicited the response that he was looking for from them.
Who had the most insane pre-match ritual?
I don't know who had the most insane, but who had the simplest was Jake the Snake Roberts. Because just back in the day when he carried the snake in the bag, the snake would be laying on, say, a trash can with a flat top or maybe on the floor. And Jake would be walking around. He never went to the gym, and he'd be smoking a cigarette. And all of a sudden, they'd hit Jake's music. He'd take a final drag off that cigarette, crush it out with his foot, throw the snake over his back, and just walk to the ring. No warm-up, no nothing. That's how he did it, dragging on a cigarette. And once Jake got in the ring, he commanded your respect, and he had this presence about him, and he's one of the most economic, efficient workers out there, where he didn't do a whole lot, but everything he did meant something, and he was always working for that DDT. So he was phenomenal in that right, but the simplicity of his warm-up routine would stand out more than the craziest routine that I can think of.
All right, Stone Cold, we have a recurring segment on our show called Explain That Graham, where we do a deep dive on our guest's Instagram, pull interesting pictures that need more context. So I'll bust out the laptop, I'll show you the picture, you just tell me the bigger story. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right. Here you are doing some work on the ranch. In all your years in ranching, have you ever flipped a tractor, been bitten by a snake? When you think about Broken Skull and the near emergencies, is there a story that stands out?
There's a couple times when we're mowing the ponds, we would call them tanks in Texas, a water hole. The embankments are pretty damn steep. And I used to work for the highway department when I was a kid, so I would be used to driving on the overpasses and stuff like that, mowing the sides of highways. But there's a kind of a pucker factor, we'd call it. And you're dragging a 15-foot batwing shredder behind you, which kind of gives you a little bit of a low center of gravity or keeps you anchored to the ground. But just the fact that if you hit a hog waller or something like that, you just know that tractor's going to flip over and your ass is going to be upside down in the water, and ain't nobody going to get you out of there. So many near cases of that are just pucker factor. Never got bit by a rattlesnake. I heard a few, and they have a very distinct rattle when you're walking to your deer stand, and all of a sudden one starts rattling at you, and it's kind of like that come to Jesus moment. And I don't hear very well, but
you can hear that.
I can hear a damn rattlesnake, like it's nobody's business.
What do you remember about meeting Muhammad Ali?
Paul Orndorff is the guy right there to the left side of that picture. He actually took a pair of boxing gloves to get Muhammad Ali to sign them, but Muhammad Ali was simply the greatest boxer that ever lived, and such a charismatic personality that he had this global, worldwide following of people who absolutely loved him. I've never met anybody that said anything bad about Muhammad Ali, because he was just universally loved by literally everyone. So it was really cool to remember that I met the GOAT.
Sip of tequila for the working man. Do you have a go-to margarita recipe?
Oh yeah. So basically, I'm working with a 3-ounce shot glass.
Got it.
I go Patron Silver just because you can go a higher grade tequila that's going to be a lot smoother, but you're going to need a little bit of bite in that margarita. So 3 ounces of tequila, they pour this in a shaker. About 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces of triple sec. About 1 ounce to 1.25 ounces of lime juice. People get carried away with lime juice. Most time when you go to restaurants and you give you something that just tastes like limeade, and it just kills you, no can do. That's the biggest mistake rookies make, or bartenders that don't know their shit, with the margarita. Just a spray of agave nectar, just a few drops. So you shake that up in a shaker, right? And then you pour it out on fresh rocks. And then you float about 1 ounce of Grand Marnier on top. And that's the Broken Skull Ranch margarita. And each one you drink is a triple. So by the time you drank 2 of my margaritas, that's 6 shots of tequila. You're good. Yeah, now I'm not good, but you would be good. Heating up. Not heating up.
So when you were chatting with Hulk Hogan on your podcast recently, you guys were talking about wrestling in Japan and how crazy it was in the 70s. Why does that era, why does that scene, why does that have such a special place in wrestling insiders' hearts?
Just going back to the old Japan days, that's when it was really kind of still considered a shoot. Walking back to the dressing room many times, like in Kansas City, or Harley Race, there's guys, stories of guys getting stabbed and gaffed, by knives from fans because they were so, bought into the fact of what they were seeing. If the heels were getting heat, or beating up the good guys, and they really cared about those good guys, hell man, a lot of times those bad guys had to fight their way to the dressing room. And so it's those old Japan days, memories like that harken up those fond memories of what the business really was at its core.
What were the fans in Osaka like compared to, say, a sold-out crowd at the Dallas Sportarium?
If you're working in front of a Japan crowd and you're from the States, they're very quiet. And certain things make them come or fire up differently than a stateside crowd would be. So like maybe these two guys are working, it's complete silence, and one of them has a submission hold on the other one. If that one guy gets to the ropes, they'll pop for that. Or if a guy's starting to get kind of shelled on, then all of a sudden he just comes up with this fire and starts, responding. That gets that crowd. So much different from an audible level of storytelling by listening to the crowd. I don't hear very well, but once you put me in an arena full of 20,000 people, if the sumbitch up there in row 100 is booing and everybody else is cheering, I know exactly where he's at. And I'm not worried about him, but I'm just saying that's how in tuned I am with the crowd, because you're always reading a crowd, whether you're going by the script that everybody is talking about, or you're calling it on the fly. You're listening to that crowd, because if you're not working that crowd, you're doing it wrong. Hell, I watched Shaq come over here, and boy, he was sweating bullets, and Gordon Ramsay was dropping F-bombs everywhere.
And look at you.
Well, like I said, I think there's a setup here. If those guys, because I haven't got a chance, I'd love to meet Gordon Ramsay. I met Shaq a few times, but Shaq was really, but he said he wasn't going to show any faces. He did pretty good. He maintained his composure.
For a while.
But he started sweating. It's like people think I'm going to say something profound here. I was actually timing my heartbeat. I'm thinking, something's about to go wrong here. If my heartbeat hits about 150, something's wrong. These aren't laced with amphetamines, are they?
No.
Yeah, I'm
totally
gauging I'm checking my biological and physiological responses as you're sitting there looking at me.
We've got them hooked up to the biometrics over here.
Okay, yeah, that one's starting to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's starting to get there. I know I can go one deeper, but that one, I'm feeling that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What you got for me?
So as a guy who embraces the simple pleasures, but also has an appreciation for the things that are badass, I know that you're very proud of the project that you've done with El Segundo Brewing Company, Broken Skull IPA. Are you of the belief that the beer you drink says something about the person?
Yes, it does. And I stand by that beer. I worked on that beer, sitting at a table just like this, very much like this, with Rob Croxall, the owner of El Segundo Brewing Company, and we decided to collaborate on a beer. We had 10 to 15 beers on the table that we both liked or fancied or had some quality to them. And so as we were drinking these beers, I would explain to him, and I don't really necessarily speak beer terminology, but I'm a pretty good expert at drinking beer. And I would explain, okay, this is hitting me mid. I like some a little bit more mid-palate. Some of them hit you too up front, or some linger too long. Some are too bitter. And I would explain the way each beer affected me or where it resonated with me on my taste buds. And I was so proud to be down there in Tampa at that Raw reunion. And I got a good buzz, and I was proud to be drinking my friggin' beer after all these years of drinking everybody else's. Do I want to do this?
For the people, for season 9.
Boy, that ain't a sales pitch. I ain't never heard one. We got to do it for the people.
We got to do it. We're in it together. We're in this together.
Oh, Jesus. You should have been a wrestling promoter.
I would have loved to do that.
My damn nose is running, and I haven't even got it close to my mouth yet. How is it? Oh, man. My
Delicious.
lungs are burning. All right, I'll do it. I got to. I'm showing my range here. Anybody can just take a bite out of it. It's like, no, but you know what? I wanted to ask you something.
Sure.
I'm kidding you. I'm just fucking with you. I'm timing my heart rate. Mm-hmm. You ever had anybody come out here and time a heart rate?
You're the first one.
Yeah, I'm
9
unique.
seasons deep, and you're the first
I'm
one.
unique. Some people call me fucked up. I like to say unique. It sounds better.
So, one of my favorite things about listening to the Steve Austin Show is hearing you and other wrestlers talk shop and trade war stories from your years in the business. And I've come to figure out that wrestling lingo is the best kind of lingo. What does color mean?
Color means blood.
What is cheap heat?
Cheap heat is if you and me are working a match and I'm the bad guy and I were to spit on you. That's cheap heat because anybody could have done that.
What do you mean when you say calling high spots?
Say a high spot is, now we need some motion. We need to do something to elicit a response. Tackle, drop down, hip toss. If I have you in the headlock, you're going to shoot me off, you're going to take the tackle. I'm going to run the ropes, you'll drop down, I'm going to jump over you, and then you're going to hip toss me on the way back. So a high spot is movement within the match.
What's a receipt?
A receipt is, I'll give you a great story. If you lay something in too hard, then the other person's got to send you a receipt that says, hey, dude, settle down. So anyway, a long time ago, I was working with the big boss man, Ray Traylor. Ray Traylor's about 6'6", 300 pounds. He was a former, prison guard, and that was his gimmick, big boss man. And Ray hit me with about 6 lefts, and referee Earl Hebner's kind of sitting there watching. He's kind of got this shit-eating grin on his face. He's kind of smiling because he knows I'm only going to take a few more. So finally, I've decided I've had enough. So I picked up Ray. Again, Ray's 6'6", about 300 some odd pounds. I sent him into the ropes, and I told him, I said, watch your clothesline. So when I tell a guy, watch your clothesline, normally you're going to hit a guy right here. You don't want to hit him in the Adam's apple. You just want to hit him here with enough force so through his axis, a pivot point, he can take his bump and land on his back. Here comes Ray, 6'6". Well, I decided, this was a receipt. I'm not going to give him a clothesline. What I did, I balled up my fist like that with my forearm, and as he was coming, I went, bam! I hit him right between the eyes of my forearm with everything I had, and Big Ray went down. And he's on his hands and knees, and on his knees, he's damn near as tall as I am. But he looked up at me like this, and it was almost like a Saturday morning cartoon with stars going around his head like this, and he had this smile on his face because he knew he fucked up. And he goes, okay. And he was recognizing the fact that I gave him a receipt, and he didn't tee off on me for the rest of the night.
All right, Stone Cold.
Hold on. My goddamn heart rate's about 130. I'm still in a safe zone. I should have worn my heart rate monitor.
So
tell me about this one.
This is the Chocolate Plague from Pucker Butt Pepper Company.
See.
Did you need to know all that?
Well, it tells me what's going to happen tomorrow. Okay, I was trying to give you my receipt story, and that son of a bitch was kicking my ass, so I gave you. I tell that story in a much better fashion, but my mouth was on fire, so I didn't get there.
I thought it was great.
Is Milk my friend at this point?
Milk's your friend. Sipping milk for the working man.
Is this going to be hotter than the sandwich I just ate?
It will not.
You're such a liar.
I wouldn't lie to you. I'd be an idiot to lie to you in this situation.
But is it going to compound the fact that I've got a residual of this building?
I think that we're already past the point of no return. It's like we've been drenched in a shower. Who cares if it rains?
You're so full of shit, it's unbelievable. I'm buying it. I'm going with you. I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to. And I'm not a hot person.
Could have fooled me. You're doing great. Do you have a favorite WWE Raw cameo from a non-wrestler? The Mike Tyson stuff was always very compelling.
I love doing business with Mike. When he came down, and Vince McMahon introduced him a long time ago in the middle of the ring, and he was going to referee the match between myself and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14. And I came down there and got in his face, flipped him off, and he pushed me. And I tried to get back at him, and I was trying, as we would say, going back to wrestling lingo, for a shoot to get back at him. Of course, I didn't want to get back at him, but it had to look real, and it was. But when he pushed me, all of these $100 bills just flew out of his suit. If you go back on YouTube, watch it, and you'll watch all of his handlers down on hands and knees picking up $100 bills. And I'm kicking and scratching, and Briscoe, Slaughter, all the guys are holding me back. But working with Mike Tyson, because he's such a fan of the business and a historian of the business, and he actually probably knew more about the history of the business than a lot of the guys that were backstage. But just him by himself as a person, I just love the guy.
All right, Stone Cold.
Oh.
This is the last dab. We call it the last dab because it's tradition around here to put a little extra on the last wing. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Oh, I love the way you just toss it up to me so I can either puss out or go down swinging with you. You sorry son of a bitch. Hang on.
There you go.
Tell me what I'm about to get myself into.
Well, it's the
Describe death to me. Tell me what I'm about to get myself into, Grim Reaper.
Here's what I'm saying. I think that you have gone, we're approaching the peak, of this Spice Mountain that we're climbing together.
Yes.
And I don't see a drop of sweat on you. I've stared across this table for so many crazy things, from people doing laps to spitting in buckets to pouring milk up their nose to dumping water over their head. And you are just calm, cool, and collected, telling amazing wrestling stories and pounding chicken. It's absolutely a sight to behold, and it's a lovely segue to this last question.
Okay, what is it?
First we feast.
Got me spreading on there.
Yeah, there you go. Better remove.
You want to do this together?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, Steve. All right, Stone Cold Steve Austin, here we are at the end of our tag team match against the Wings of Death. But before we go, just one more finishing move before they hit the bell. I know that you take a lot of pride in your ability to cut a promo, and for good reason. You're one of the best who's ever done it, and then that Austin 316, it's still a household catchphrase some 25 years later. So with that in mind, I'm curious, what is your message to the people out there, including some on your old team, who thought that you'd get suplexed today by the Wings of Death?
I watched Gordon Ramsay, I watched Shaq, and those guys were sweating bullets and cussing and raising all kinds of hell. So for me to be able to wing this, no pun intended, have a wonderful sit-down conversation with you, who obviously does a shitload of research, was one of the defining moments of my entire life.
Wow, well, I am humbled. Beer me, Chris. A toast to season 9 and to you, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Thank you for having me on your show, and congrats on 9 seasons. I hope I can get 9 out of straight up Steve Austin.
Well, now you know what, Steve. There's nothing left to do but roll out the red carpet for you, my friend. This camera. Let the people know what you have going on in your life.
Hey, my name is Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm sitting here with Sean. I just got finished doing the season finale of Hot Ones, and I had a blast doing it. My mouth is on fire. I got a podcast. They drop twice a week on Podcast One and iTunes and whatever major podcast platforms there are. I'm also got a badass beer out called Steve Austin's Broken Skull IPA. And right now, August 12th was the season premiere for Straight Up Steve Austin, my show on USA Network. It is every Monday night after Monday Night Raw, and I hope you will tune in, set your DVRs, because I love doing this show so much. I'd love to be able to be as successful as you are and get 9+ seasons out of it. I've had a good time here, and that's the bottom line, because I said so.
Great job, Steve. Great job.
Thank you, man.
Hey, what's going on, Hot Ones fans? This is Sean Evans checking in with a very exciting hot sauce update. Our first ever collaborative sauce, it's here. 88 Rising, First We Feast, joining forces to make Dragon in the Clouds. You saw me, Joji, and Rich Brian mixing it up in the cauldron, yuzu from Japan, Szechuan peppercorn from China, and of course, you know your boy brought the heat. But don't worry, we got some professionals together to make sure this stuff is FDA approved, extremely limited, very quality, and something we're super proud of. If you want to get your hands on Dragon in the Clouds, visit 88nightmarket.com. That's 88nightmarket.com. Don't miss your chance. The dragon, it can fly away.